Welcome to the One Minute Apologist. We interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions.
Why does every Christian need abductive reasoning?
Well, this is a process of reasoning that detectives use every day, and I suspect that most people use it all the time and don't even realize they're using it. It's a process by which I walk into a room and I make a mental list, or even a written list, of all the evidence in the room. Then I make a list of all the possible ways to explain this evidence. And I try to be very broad in this list of possibilities. I include everything I can think of that might explain this list of evidences. Then I go back and forth between these two lists. And I start to eliminate those explanations that don't make sense in light of the evidence, or make the least amount of sense, until I have what's left is the most reasonable inference from the evidences in the room. And I think that Christians can do this very same thing, for example, when they look at the resurrection of Christ. There are certain minimal pieces of evidence we can all agree on. You can take a list, for example, like Mike Licona and Gary Habermas created, or you can have your own skeptical list. I had my own skeptical list of the minimal things I was willing to accept about this resurrection event. Then I listed all the possible explanations. Were they lying about it? Were they fooled by an imposter? You know, any number of ways you want to list the possible explanations for this minimal evidence. But going back and forth between these two lists allows you to kind of cross out which is less reasonable. And every explanation has some liability. But I think if you do that honestly with the resurrection, you end up with an explanation from Christianity that only has one liability. The liability that it has to be possible for a man to rise from the dead. And if you are willing to accept that, leave your mind open to the possibility that something supernatural can happen. Don't start off with a presupposition that eliminates that possibility out front. That does end up being the most reasonable explanation in light of the evidence. So that process of abductive reasoning will actually lead us to the truth about the resurrection.